राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन श्रीरावणचारि श्रीरावणचारि जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे जय राधा गिरिधरि राधा गिरिधरि राधा जय राधा गिरिधरि राधा गिरिधरि राधा जय जगन्नाथ जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभाष जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभाष जय गौरीताई जय गौरीताई जय गौरी जय गौरीताई गौरीताई जय गौरी प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव जगत्पाद परमहंस प्रिय राष्ट्रसुत श्री ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय रामचंद्र श्रीलदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा गिरिधरी भगवान की जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा मैया की जय श्री श्री गौर निताई की जय निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि। All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Gurudev. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Granthāraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna, welcome back to this evening session where we were discussing currently the story and lessons from Krishna Janmastami. So we started pretty much around the time of Janmastami, and we are progressing on towards the next part of what happened. So in the last episode, we did see the background of how Mother Earth was overburdened, and as a result of that, when they went to see or discuss this with Vishnu, Chirodakshai Vishnu, he told them to appear in the Yadu dynasty before he appears on this earth to rid the earth of all the demons and relieve her burden. And we saw how the demons prior to that had taken birth in the powerful Kshatriya families, and they were causing havoc. And now the Devatas also took birth in the Yadu dynasty. And today we will see how the different dynasties, or two major dynasties, they came together for an alliance, and who are the prominent members in those dynasties. And we'll also look at the past of Kamsa. So before that, we'll excuse me, look at a very nice verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 1, Text 16. Some of you might know this verse very well, but this is, I think, a great verse to remind ourselves that doesn't matter who is doing what, as long as we are connected to Krishna Katha in some form or the other, we are being constantly purified and benefited. So if you have the Bhagavatam, please do repeat. Vasudeva Katha Prashnaha Purusham Strin Punatihi Bhaktaram Prichakam Shrotrims Tatpada Salilam Yatha. Vasudeva Katha Prashnaha Purusham Strin Punatihi Bhaktaram Prichakam Shrotrims Yatpada Salilam Yatha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Ganges emanating from the toe of Lord Vishnu purifies the three worlds, the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems. Similarly, when one asks question about the pastimes and characteristics of Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, three varieties of men are purified: the speaker or preacher, he who inquires, and the people in general who listen. Purport. It is said, Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jigyasuhu Shreya Uttamam. Bhagavatam 11.3.21. Those interested in understanding transcendental subject matters as the goal of life must approach the bona fide spiritual master. Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta. One must surrender to such a guru who can give right information about Krishna. Herein, Maharaj Parikshit has surrendered to the right personality, Shukadev Goswami, for enlightenment in Vasudev Katha. Vasudev is the original personality of Godhead who has unlimited spiritual activities. Srimad Bhagavatam is a record of such activities, and Bhagavad Gita is a record of Vasudev speaking personally. Therefore, since the Krishna consciousness movement is full of Vasudev Katha, anyone who hears, anyone who joins the movement, and anyone who preaches will be purified. Om Ajnanatamidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Mahavishnu Goswami Niti Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivash Adi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Bhagavan ki jai. So we see that in this verse very nicely, Shukadev Goswami is mentioning that wherever the glories of Krishna are chanted, recited, three types of people are involved in such a transmission. So who are the three? He says Vaktaram, Pritchakam and Shrotrims. Vaktaram, Pritchakam and Shrotrims. So Vaktaram is who? Vakta. He is a person who is speaking, who is describing the glories of Krishna after having heard it from bona fide parampara system. So he gets purified. Not only that, Pritchakam. Pritchakam means person who is inquiring, who is sincerely wanting to know more about Krishna, more about the activities of Krishna, and more about how he can implement the principles and instructions of Krishna in his life. They also get purified. And the third one, Shrotrims. Anybody who is hearing the Katha, whether it is live or whether it is on Zoom or electronic medium, doesn't matter. Anybody who is hearing the Katha gets equally purified as much as the preacher or the speaker of the glories of Krishna gets purified. So you see, that's why Prabhupada has instituted regular hearing of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam every day for serious and sincere devotees. So that is something that we should all remember. Anytime we get to hear Krishna Katha, we should understand that we are actually getting purified. And what is the proof that we are getting purified? The proof that we are getting purified is we develop the urge to hear more Krishna Katha. So if there is that intense desire to hear more, means purification has happened. That's why we have developed the desire. In the purport, Prabhupada emphasizes one more important point, and for people who don't know the difference between Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Sometimes a lot of people ask us, are they the same? Are they different? What is it? And Prabhupada has, in just one sentence, given such a simple explanation to distinguish between the two and to also obviously connect the two. So he says that Srimad Bhagavatam is a record of Krishna's unlimited spiritual activities. Obviously, Krishna does not perform any material activities. All his activities are spiritual or transcendental. So Bhagavatam is a record of Krishna's transcendental activities. And Bhagavad Gita is a record of Vasudeva speaking personally. So it's Krishna's own voice, Krishna's own instructions in Bhagavad Gita, and the proof of what Krishna has spoken in Bhagavad Gita has been described through his pastimes or the pastimes of his devotees in Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's the explanation and the proof of the instructions in Bhagavad Gita. Very nicely mentioned here. So since talking about Krishna and glorifying him purifies us, let's continue the Krishna Katha where we left off. So we saw how the earth was being overburdened, but on the other hand, we also understand that Devatas were being born in the Yadu dynasty. But before we get on to that, I thought I'll just share some trivia with you. That there has been some research in terms of the actual date when Krishna appeared on this earth and the date he actually left, and how long, as per earthly years, was he there on this planet. So there has been many research done in that regard, with obviously reference to scriptures, and based on the constellation, based on the nakshatra at that point of time, which relates to the relative positions of the different planets going back so many years. Some of the astrologers have found that Krishna actually appeared in 3228 BC, and he disappeared in 3102 BC, which basically means that he was on this planet Earth for 125 earthly years. And obviously, he was born in Mathura, taken to Gokul, and he was in different places for different years. Like in Gokul, he was there for about 3.5 years since the time he was born. And then, as we know, Nanda Maharaj moved to Vrindavan. So there he was there for another 3.5 years. Then they moved to Nandagaon, and he was there for about 4 years. From Nandagaon, Akrur took Krishna and Balaram to Mathura. And when Krishna went to Mathura, eventually, of course, he crowned Ugrasen the king, and he was there. So at the age of 11, he left for Mathura, and he was there for just a little over 18 years in Mathura. And then from Mathura, he went to Dwaraka as the king. And in Dwaraka, he spent the maximum time of his earthly pastime years. And that's about 96 years and a few months. So totally, he was here for 125 years. And it is said that when the Mahabharat war was fought, Krishna's so-called material age, based on calculations, was about 90 years. But even when he was actually 125 years old, so-called earthly years, he was Nava Yovanam. So he doesn't age more than 15 years physically, like looking at his age. So it's wonderful that when Krishna performs these pastimes, how attracted people become, and they want to hear more. So before Krishna actually appeared, there's quite a few interesting things that was going on in the background. And sometimes, of course, Bhagavatam does not describe all of that in detail, but it's a gist of what was going on. But there are other scriptures that talk about those in a bit more detail. So we'll try to understand and go deeper into some of those incidents, because they have a very big impact when Krishna he appeared. I would say born, but he actually appeared. So at that point of time, the Yadu dynasty was very, very powerful just before Krishna's birth. Obviously, a lot of devatas were born as Kshatriyas in that dynasty. And the main person, the main supremo in the Yadu dynasty was King Ugrasen. So under him, there were a few other states that he was ruling. And Maharaj Ugrasen, he himself had a brother, and his brother was Devak. And he also had a cousin named Kunti Bhoj. So Maharaj Ugrasen, he begot 9 sons and 5 daughters. And amongst his 9 sons, the most powerful and obviously known was Kamsa. Similarly, Kunti Bhoj's daughter was Kunti. And Maharaj's brother Devak, his daughter was Devaki. Okay, so that's the Yadu dynasty. Then we'll move on to, there was another dynasty which was known as the Vrishni dynasty. They were not as powerful as the Yadus, but they were also well known, and they had their own fame and popularity in their kingdom. So Vrishni, at that point was ruled by Maharaj Surasen. And Maharaj Surasen was the son of a king Devamidha. And Surasen had 10 sons and 5 daughters. So, of the 5 daughters, one of the daughters was Kunti. But Kunti was given by Surasen to Kunti who was the cousin of Ugrasen. I know it might sound a bit all over the place, but just try to listen and see how wonderfully there is this connection between the two powerful dynasties of that time. So that's Kunti, and Maharaj Surasen, he had, as I said, 10 sons. Of his 10 sons, Vasudev was the eldest son. So Vasudev from Vrishni dynasty and Devaki from Yadu dynasty. That matchmaking was done by Gargacharya. He thought that this, based on the horoscopes and charts, he thought that this marriage would be a very powerful marriage, and it will also be a great alliance between the two dynasties as well. So he's the one who put forward this proposal to the two families. Now, Devamit, whose son was Surasen in the Vrishni dynasty, had another son, and his other son was Parjanya. Now, Parjanya was the king of Vrindavan, and he was such a wonderful ruler, and he took care of the citizens so much that they regarded him as their own father, not as a king. They couldn't imagine Vrindavan without the rule of Parjanya. So Parjanya had 5 sons, and these 5 sons, they gave immense pleasure to all the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So all their names ended with Ananda. So Ananda means giver of pleasure. They give happiness to the inhabitants. So his first son was called Upananda, then Abhinanda, third son was Nanda, then Sananda and Nandana. So all the 5 sons were very, very popular and famous and liked by all the citizens. So when Parjanya actually he wanted to retire from and leave his kingly duties, he wanted to give the kingdom of Vrindavan to his eldest son. So his eldest son was Upananda. So Upananda was supposed to be crowned the king. But on the day he was supposed to be crowned the king, he did something which was shocking. People couldn't believe this. So when the coronation ceremony takes place, the person who is supposed to be crowned king is given this tilak. So instead of Upananda accepting the tilak of becoming the king, he actually did the tilak on Nanda Maharaj. Nanda was actually the middle brother of the 5. He was in the center. But he was liked amongst the 5. All the 5 brothers were liked, but amongst the 5, he was the most cherished. Everybody in Vrindavan just loved him, adored him, respected him. So Maharaj Upananda thought that he would be a better king, and he himself thought he could be the advisor to the king, although he was the eldest, and it was his right to the throne. So although Nanda Maharaj was hesitant at the beginning, but because he was the darling of all, he was as soon as the tilak was done on him, everybody in the kingdom was very satisfied and very happy that Nanda Maharaj is actually taken over as the king of Vrindavan. So this shows that it is not just about being the eldest son. That is, of course, one of the rules, but it is also a question of who can be a better king. And this example is wonderful, especially in today's context, where it is not important whether it is my right to be the king or not. What is important is, can I be a good king, or is there somebody else who can make a better king and I can support him? In this material world, everybody wants all the best things for himself. whether he's qualified to receive them or not, and they want others to serve him. Whereas a devotee or a person who is devoted to the Lord, follows his instructions, understands the scriptures, always does things not because he likes it, not because he wants it, but what Krishna wants, what the people in general want. That's a big difference. So, from the story, we can learn that it is not important what we deserve, it is not important what right we have got. What is important is, in this situation, who can do the best job, who can perform the best service, and he is given that service. So we see during festivals, sometimes there are so many kirtaniyas, there are so many people who can give class, there are so many people who can dress the deities. But for festival times, when it's the best time of the year, you want to give the Lord the best during festivals, right? In terms of bhoga offering, in terms of decoration, in Janmastami we have the best of decoration. So whosoever can give or perform the best service, of course everybody is keen to perform some service, but amongst the devotees who can perform the best service, that person is designated to take charge of that service. So the person who sings the best is given that service. And others who can also sing, they also feel nice that this person is really qualified, he sings the best, he deserves to sing for the festival. And likewise, dressing the deities, the priest who can dress the deities in the most exquisite manner, they are given the charge to dress the deities. That doesn't mean others do not do it, but the others, they can assist such a person, a skilled person who's got these qualities. So it just tells us or shows us how we can work in harmony with each other and basically glorify and please the Lord. And the Lord himself is extremely happy when he sees this cooperation amongst all his children. And this is one of the examples to show that it happened then, and if we are aware and if we really want to follow the instructions of Krishna, we can even do it now. So that was a bit of a gist between Yadu, Vrishni, and how a part of the Vrishni dynasty was also ruling Vrindavan. So Nanda Maharaj eventually got married to, as we know, Yashoda, who was a daughter of a cowherd chief named Sumukh. Right. Now, that was basically an overview of the dynasty. Now, the main reason why Krishna came was obviously to relieve the burden from Mother Earth, but the person who was mainly instrumental in actually causing Krishna's early descent was Kamsa. So who is this Kamsa? How did he become so powerful? And why just him? And how come under him there were so many demons that he could send across? Must have been a really, personality, very powerful personality, who was causing so much problems to all the devotees in Vrindavan at that point of time. So we understand that Kamsa in his previous birth was a demon called Kalanemi. And Kalanemi at that point of time was a very, very powerful demon, and it is said that Kamsa was even more powerful. So when Kalanemi came as Kamsa, he was even more powerful and almost unbeatable. And we'll see how the turn of events happened and how he actually became and acquired that kind of power to silence everybody during his rule. So Kamsa was Kalanemi, and Kalanemi was a powerful demon who was there around the time when the churning of the milk ocean was happening between the Devatas and the demons, the demigods and the demons. And after that, we know that story, how after the churning, the nectar came out and how Vishnu tricked the demons and gave all the nectar to the demigods. When all that happened, obviously the demons were extremely angry and they attacked attacked the Devatas, and leading that attack, in fact, the Devatas were ambushed. So leading that attack was Kalanemi, who was riding on his lion and carrying his trident, and he was ambushing and trying to kill the Devatas. And as he was doing that, he could not foresee that Lord Vishnu him personally came on this Garud and tried and counteracted this ambush by the demons. So Kalanemi, when he saw Vishnu, he was extremely angry. He flung his trident and tried to strike Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu, he held the trident in his hand and with full force threw it back at Kalanemi, who was riding the lion. The trident came with such great force that it just pierced Kalanemi, pierced the lion, and hit the ground, and pierced the ground. So Kalanemi and the lion were basically pinned down on the earth, and obviously they finished. As soon as that happened, all the demons, they ran away. This is another quality of demons. When the leader is in trouble, they run away. They don't stay together and support the leader. The first quality is they run away. Sound similar? Make your own guesses. So they went off. Kalanemi was dead. So this news reached Shukracharya, who was the spiritual master of the demons. So he came there and he saw Kalanemi killed. He was obviously upset. One of his disciples was killed. So he used his mystic powers. He's got the Sanjeevani, and he revived Kalanemi. So Kalanemi came alive again. And when he came alive, obviously his hatred for Vishnu, since Vishnu had killed him, only increased. And he thought to himself that if Vishnu has killed him, there's no way with this body and with his ability he can manage to defeat or even kill Vishnu. So he thought he should upgrade his body in a better way. So he engaged in austerities. So when we see at that point of time when demons or any other people, they want something, a higher purpose in life, they want something higher for themselves, they perform austerities and pray to Brahma to grant them their wishes. So he also performed a lot of austerities, and at the end he pleased Brahma. His idol, by the way, was Hiranyakashipu. He did a lot of austerities and got the boon from Brahma. Now he followed his footsteps. So Brahma came to him, and eventually he asked for the same boon, immortality. Brahma said, no, I can't give you that. So Kalanemi managed to ask immunity from the Devatas, demigods. So no demigods can kill him. And he thought all the other living entities, no, they don't matter anyway. He can take care of them. He's powerful enough. So once he got immunity from the Devatas, he was looking for an opportunity now to upgrade. Okay, I've got the boon. I need a better body. So he was looking at an opportunity. Which womb can I enter? But a demon to enter into a womb has to be, excuse me, has to be an illicit connection. As it is said in Bhagavad Gita, when lawfully wedded husband and wife, they unite, the child that is born is a divine child, is a godly child. But when the union happens between, which is illegal, which is against the scriptures, a child that is born is demoniac. And we see around us like an example of a demoniac civilization. So it happened that Ugrasen's wife, Padmavati, she had gone to her parents' place to stay for a few days. And her father, his name was, I don't have it here anyway, sorry. She was at his father's place. And while she was living there is a personality called Drumila, who was a messenger of Kuber, but he was a rogue. and he somehow managed to see her at her father's place, and he had an attraction for her. So he disguised himself as Ugrasen and came to see her. And Padmavati, obviously seeing Ugrasen, it's her husband. So she welcomed him and they united. And when they united, Kalanemi got the opportunity. So he knew that this was not real Ugrasen, and this uniting is not as per scriptures. So this is an opportunity for uh, a demoniac soul to enter. So he entered the womb of Padmavati, and finally she gave birth, and that was Kamsa. Now, because he took birth in these circumstances, he had three qualities from three different personalities, Kamsa. So he had the evil mind of Drumila, who was supposedly his biological father. He also had the hatred of Kalunemi, which was him in his kind of previous body. And he had the power, wealth of Ugrasen. So with all these three together, he became extremely powerful, unbeatable at that point of time. So from the time of his birth to the time he became a youth, he was constantly waiting for that opportunity to become more powerful, to gather more allies, and ultimately kill Vishnu. So from his youthful days, he was planning, how can I make allies? How can I make allies? I want to unite all the negative people in this world, all the demons of the world, and become very powerful. Like a good person thinks that how can I associate with other godly people and make spiritual progress? And a demon always thinks, how can I associate with more demons, associate with them, and bring them under my control? That's a big thing. Devotees, they interact with each other and want to be with each other to serve Krishna together. Demons interact with each other to make others serve him. So Kamsa, he was wrestling one day in his wrestling arena when a big wild elephant came there. And it was huge, gigantic, and just swaying all over and attacking people. So seeing the elephant, everybody from the wrestling arena, they fled. And Kamsa was left all alone. So people thought, my God, it's such a big elephant and it's all Kamsa on his own. My God, maybe the elephant might pick Kamsa up and throw him down, and who knows whether he'll even be alive or not. They were contemplating like this. Suddenly they saw that Kamsa attacked the elephant, held him, picked him up, swallowed him, and threw him far away. And as soon as they saw that, they said, wow, Kamsa is my hero. How can he, how much powerful he is that he did that to an elephant, that to a gigantic elephant. Amazing. And as they were all discussing amongst each other and admiring Kamsa for his power, King Jarasandha approached with his two daughters, Asti and Prapti. And he was impressed as well by Kamsa's power. So he offered these two daughters to Kamsa in marriage. And this alliance between Jarasandha Maharaj of Magad and Kamsa of the Yadu dynasty, it became such a big, powerful alliance. And that gave Kamsa the boost to say, I need more, I need more. So he went to a place called Mahishmati, which was known for the king of Mahishmati had 5 sons who were great wrestlers. And he went to them and he challenged them. If I get defeated by any one of you, I will become your servant for life. But if I can defeat all the 5 of you at the same time, so you 5 and I 1, it's 5-1. If I can defeat all of 5, then all of you will be my servants for life. They took up the challenge. So the eldest son was Chanur. The Mushtik and Chanur, who actually fought with Krishna before he killed Kamsa. So these were the two personalities. They were part of the five brothers. So they all came and challenged Kamsa. And Kamsa he just showed his power. He just hit Chanura and he fell flat on his face. He knocked Mustika, gave him a punch, and Mustika fell unconscious with blood oozing. He tripped Kuta. The third son was Kuta, fourth was Toshal, and fifth was Sal. Kamsa defeated all of them hands down. And then he had five wrestlers in his army. He was extremely proud of it. And then he went to Pravarsana mountain, where he fought and wrestled with Dvivida, the gorilla, for 20 days. And he fractured pretty much, it said, every bone in his body till Dvivida conceded defeat and became a servant of Kamsa. Then he went to Rishyamukh mountain, where he defeated the horse-headed demon Keshi, and he became his alliance as well. Apparently, he said he punched him 100 times. Then he met with a bit of a setback, should we say. He went to the Mahindra mountain, and he was just shaking the mountain, like children just shake some object like this, some table or chair. He didn't realize that Lord Parashuram was actually meditating on Mandara mountain. So when he was pushing the mountain, he was just shaking it. Parashuram was meditating. He just came out of his meditation, got extremely angry, and realizing that it's Parashuram, he Kamsa begged forgiveness. And he tried to appease Parashuram, who he knew was against the Kshatriyas. So Parashuram was appeased by Kamsa's forgiveness, and he said, "Okay, I give you an option. This is the bow of Shiva. It weighs 3,000 tons. No ordinary person can even lift it. But if you can string the bow, I'll spare your life. Otherwise, you'll be killed." So Kamsa, obviously he was not an ordinary person. He took the bow, and much to the amazement of Parashuram, he not only strung the bow, he tongued it quite a few times. Tung, tung, tung. And Parashuram was quite impressed with his power. And when Kamsa did that, he again begged forgiveness, fell at his feet, and said, "I'm not a Kshatriya actually. I come from a Rakshasa family. So please forgive me." Parashuram was quite impressed. So he said, "Okay, I forgive you. And you can also have the bow. This is the bow of Lord Shiva. But remember, whosoever breaks this bow will also be the cause of your death." So he took the bow and came back. And then he went and defeated Aghasur, Arishtasur, Narakasur, Dhenukasur, Trinavarta, Bakasur, Putana, all the demons that he sent were all the demons that actually Kamsa defeated. And they all became his servants, ready to lay their life for him. So taking this whole entourage of all the demons that he had either defeated or struck an alliance with, he marched into Mathura. And when he marched with all these hideous personalities, the citizens were shocked. Imagine the king coming with all these demons. But he was so powerful, nobody dared protest. And because he came with all these alliances, all these big demons, by default, he was calling the shots. So Ugrasen was only a king for namesake only. And in this scenario, with Kamsa, with all his alliances, in this scenario, the proposal came from Gargacharya that we would like to have Devaki marry Vasudev. And Kamsa, although he was evil-minded, he had a very soft spot for this dear sister, Devaki. And so he agreed to that proposal, and he also did something that he normally would never have even dreamed of doing. What was it? And what happened while he was doing that activity? We will see next week, same day, same time. Stay tuned for another Krishna Katha evening. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Before we leave, just 2 points. One is we saw a lesson from Maharaj Upananda that the king, the person who is best suited to serve the Lord, should always take charge. Doesn't matter whether it is a right or wrong. Second is, a demon will always look for demon company. He can never be righteous. He can never look for a saintly company because of his conditioning in his past life. So Kamsa, lo and behold, was only looking for demons as his demon company. Obviously, he had an agenda to fulfill because of that. So, two things to keep in mind. And third, everything has a background. Everything has a history. When we understand the history, we can appreciate the event a little bit more. So we'll continue next week, same time. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you.